Okay, guys, we're in for the last panel session of the afternoon, which I can definitely tell you we've kept the best for last. This is going to be riveting around renewable energy. I will introduce my team members to you in a few seconds. So you will also agree with me that I certainly have the best looking team for the last presentation as soon as you see my presenters, so we're looking forward to that. NEC Exxon have been playing in the alternative energy market for some years, and there's two sectors of that. The one is powering mobile towers for operators, and the second one is, the energy market in normal industrial and commercial applications. Both of them obviously going through a huge growth spurt at this point in time. I know when I joined, I asked Herman, who is on stage now, what does he think about the business case for renewable energy in South Africa? And he was like a little bit uncertain and said, look, in Africa, the business case is clear. If you look at where we maintain towers in Nigeria, for example, the cost of diesel, the unavailability of electricity, it is a clear business case. So I actually want to ask him now, 12 months later, being in the current situation that we are, in South Africa, if maybe that business case has changed. And I think he will say yes. Are you guys waiting? Sorry, I just thought I'd talk whilst I wait. Thank you. May I introduce as they come in and they will tell you a little bit more about themselves. We have Anne McLaren here. Anne is the CEO of ATC in South Africa. Then we have Sarah Radu, which is the international player on my team here. She's from Sweden. Etienne there is the country general manager for the manufacture of the Polarium Energy Systems. And then Herman there works for NEC Exxon, and Herman looks after the renewable storage, particularly in the commercial and industrial environments. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And maybe you can start by tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Hi, everyone, and nice to see you all here today, and to our online listeners as well. It's really great to meet everyone. So I'm Anne McLaren. I'm from American Tower Corporation. We are a global provider of wireless telecommunication sites. Thank you. Currently operating 220,000 telecommunication sites globally. In Africa, we have 22,000 telecommunication sites. And really fundamental to our business model is that we are a neutral host, and we are a strong believer in shared infrastructure. Hand over to Sarah.
Thank you. And hi, everyone. Pleasure to be here today. I'm Sarah Radu, Vice President for Polarium here in Africa. And as you mentioned, Johan, I am actually still in Sweden, but I'm planning to relocate to South Africa. So proud and excited to soon call South Africa my new home in a couple of months. Polarium is a Sweden-based company. We were founded in 2015, and we do smart energy storage solutions based on lithium-ion technology. And yeah, I think we will get an opportunity to dig more into what we do later on. Etienne.
Hi, I'm Etienne Gerber. I'm the General Manager for Polarium South Africa. Been in the telco industry for a long time, and have worked a very long time with ATC, with NEC, and we have now embarked on a journey where we localize the energy storage solutions for the telco sector. Being an ex-RAN guy, saw the need for energy storage, better energy storage, and the energy crisis looming in South Africa already in 2008. And I moved slowly but surely towards this goal of enabling a energy storage or energy solutions provider in South Africa, manufactured in South Africa for South Africa and African continent.
Hi, good day. My name is Herman Viljoen. I'm GM, Renewables and Storage. We provide optimized solutions, energy solutions into the commercial industrial space. Very interesting times at the moment, lots of challenges, and I'm looking forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Herman. And maybe if I can rotate back to you. I know you have some fascinating insights about the energy business in general, from a global perspective. Maybe tell us a little bit more about that, and also maybe a little bit more about your specific requirements in American Tower.
Yeah, sure. So as I mentioned, we operate globally. But in our emerging markets, and particularly on the African continent, power is a real challenge. And our vision as a company is to make wireless connectivity possible everywhere. So our largest operational challenge on this continent is that it's very difficult to get access to reliable, stable, and clean energy. And when we entered the continent, the telco industry powered up sites mainly through the use of very poor grid, particularly in markets like Nigeria, Burkina Faso, Ghana, Uganda, and Kenya, where we operate, and diesel generators. And you can imagine, with the scale that we're at 22,000 sites in Africa, where you're having to operate using diesel generators as your primary source of power, is absolutely not sustainable. The amount of diesel that you'd have to burn to power those sites, and why it's important is because it creates the network uptime. And today we've been talking a lot about technology and all the exciting things, but without power, there's no connectivity. So when we entered the market, we saw this problem, and we realized that we had to find a solution that was more sustainable, that created operational efficiencies, and could result in improved network uptime for the mobile operators. And that's when we started to talk to Polarium. And it was many, many years ago before sustainability became a buzzword in corporate like it is today. And we've been working together for several years now to find a solution to this huge problem we have on the continent. And through their support, we've been able to reduce our fuel by millions and millions and millions of liters in the African continent. We've invested quite significantly in renewable energy, and the energy storage part is really, really fundamental to that. All of this ultimately culminated in us signing last year in 2021 a multi-million-dollar bulk purchase agreement where we agreed to acquire significant volumes of Polarium batteries over the next 5 years to support our sustainability journey. And ultimately, 9 months later, what that resulted in was bringing local manufacturing of lithium-ion batteries to South Africa and to the continent. This was an absolutely incredible win for the continent, but it wouldn't have been possible without the incredible partnership. And I think what is really key is that we had a shared purpose of making a more sustainable future, but doing it in a way that is financially feasible and ensuring that there's greater uptime and connectivity. And that's, really what's fundamental, because without connectivity, society doesn't improve. And, listening to Prof. Armstrong this morning, I'm really passionate about digital inclusion. And where we have a world where we can power sites and we can increase connectivity in a sustainable manner, communities have access. They have access to education. They have access to financial services, to healthcare services, to emergency services. And this really has an impact on human lives. So it's been a phenomenal journey and really, really great to work together.
Thank you, Anne. Maybe, Sarah, if I can ask you to tell us a little bit more about the Polarium journey and, how we got to where we are at this point in time.
Absolutely. Well, first I must say, and it's fantastic that you mentioned actually the digital inclusion. Personally, I'm new to the industry, and when I got actually approached by Polarium, first I thought, how interesting can it be with batteries? It doesn't sound that fun. But then when I started to look into the opportunities that Polarium actually is offering and the problems that we actually can solve in terms of, just like you're saying, energy storage, energy optimization, and really being part of not only creating one of the solutions to one of the main issues we have here in the world with climate change issues, but also really making sure that there is power and also digital inclusions for everyone in society. I think that's what made it really, really interesting for myself. And looking at the history of Polarium, when we were founded in 2015, our founder, Stefan Jansson, has been in the business industry of batteries forever. And I have never met anyone who is so passionate about batteries, and I think you can definitely speak to that, Anne, as Stefan. But what he saw was a fantastic opportunity on the market to provide customers, like ATC of course, with solutions that were not longer the lead acid, or for you to be able to go away from the diesel generators, but instead offering you the lithium-ion technology, and to really industrialize it and scale that. When we started the business, it was truly focusing only on the telecom operators and really make sure that you as a tower company, that you would have the power that you would need it when you would need it. But now, as we said, now when we are springboarding into new areas of use, then we see also, of course, that there is fantastic business opportunities for energy storage and energy optimization. And also, I think personally, it's fantastic to see that talking about renewables energy, today I think 80% of all the energy is being used is based on fossil fuel. We have to change that for the world. But to be able to go over to more renewable in that mix, we really need to make sure that we can store energy. That has been the missing link for so long. And that's why we are so proud to actually be able to offer that solution. And of course, myself also now as a Swede, starting to get more acquainted with my new country where I will relocate, learning about load shedding and everything that has to do with that. I'm also very proud, of course, to see that we want to be part of that solution. So we've been on a massive growth journey from day one, and really thanks to ATC, you were actually the one here in Africa that enabled us to make such a big step, to really accelerate the business. I guess I should leave it over. They say that the Cape Town is the mother city, right? And you actually delivered a baby in 9 months, which happened to be a fantastic factory at the end.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. We actually entered the market here at the right time during a perfect storm. Just coming out of COVID, unemployment is rife. Geopolitics is stormy. We've got global supply chain disruptions that's making it very difficult to deliver the sustainable solutions that we want to for the African continent. We've had storms at the coasts. We've had shortage of containers for shipment. There's so many things that happened in this last few months, and we arrived and built a factory in a very short time at the right time. So in doing what we've done, we've cut the supply chain down to from supplying from South Africa into the African continent to the South African customers directly. We are enabled now to look at the African Free Trade Agreement, which would make us more attractive for exporting into Africa. We've provided jobs to a lot of people. We reduced the amount of carbon being consumed or produced by logistics supply chain. So where previously everything had to be shipped to Africa, we now have shorter distances, shorter routes to do that. And even our manufacturing site will be sustainable. So we're aiming at a zero carbon footprint in the manufacturing plant. So all of that talking towards all the challenges that we've got right now, and with load shedding on top of all of that, it is the right time to be able to provide energy storage and energy storage solutions, not just to the base station, but also to the edge, also to the data center, to the whole telecom infrastructure, and to the user infrastructure, because if the users don't have power, they're also not going to consume all of this data. So that is the transition that we're making, and quite excited to be part of this transition in Africa.
Thanks, Etienne. Herman, tell us a little bit about your passion. I know the question said, how do you experience market demand? But I mean, Herman is a fascinating guy when he starts to tell you about how you actually design these solutions and all the factors that has got to influence. So maybe you want to do a little case study for us of, you know, how do you design, how do you study an energy solution for a mine or something like something big.
Yeah, thank you, Johan. I really agree with what Etienne said. It's indeed challenging times. We have a lot of supply constraints. We have intermittent supply, aging infrastructure. But challenging times are not necessarily times there is always a problem. You know, it's times to innovate, and it's time to adjust to the market and really make the difference. We aim our solutions and designs really to target 4 major different areas. One of it is obviously to supply systems where we can reduce cost of energy. Saying that, you know, it also gives us access to smart incentives like carbon credits and carbon tax reductions and a potential accelerated depreciation. Storage is playing a very important role in our solutions, and it really gives us a set of applications that really enables us to reduce cost of energy, and then also to deploy new technologies like solar and wind, geothermal and hydro technologies, really to add to the mix and ultimately reduce the cost of energy. Secondly, we also look at systems where we can improve the quality of supply, where we really look at protecting energy sensitive processes and make sure that the quality of energy is on a better level. And after that, it's very important to look at energy security. And, you know, we spend a lot of time calculating cost of energy, but what is the cost of not having energy? And I really think we all feel that at the moment, you know, and they will address things like production, productivity, improved sales and safety, as well as better products and services. Lastly, it's also important when we do these designs is really to address carbon reduction. You know, how do we sensibly use coal, oil and diesel optimally and introduce new technologies to potentially reduce carbon.
Can I maybe ask each of you the same question? It's like a little bit in a South African context, and Sarah, maybe you can like bring a North European perspective to it. How sustainable or possible do you think it is for us to stabilize electricity supply in South Africa by virtue of more and more people using alternative energy solutions, thereby reducing the load on the grid? Herman, can I start with you, and then we move down to Anne?
My apologies, just repeat the question there.
Do you think it's sustainable for us to get
Yes.
more off the grid than what we currently are, thereby reducing the load on Eskom?
Absolutely. And I think what's extremely important here is to have insight into existing clients' consumption. And we really have a set of tools that enable us to responsibly reduce carbon and also reduce cost. We have tools that we use to simulate and to optimize in terms of sizing. That helps us a lot, but also gives us the ability to answer questions about sensitivities, the what ifs. You know, when we model these solutions, there's a lot of assumptions, you know, on what will the increase in utility rates be, how will the loads change within the next 10 years. A lot of assumptions that we need to make in order to quantify the benefits of these systems. But having the ability to build these frameworks and to simulate it also gives us insights into the what-if questions. What if, for instance, diesel changes from $1 to $2 per liter diesel, and what the impact on those systems will be? In terms of, say, sustainability, I think there's a lot of exciting technology out there that supports us and helps us to provide systems that can really make a difference.
Yeah.
Etienne?
I mean, it's very, very good question that you're asking, because we're actually sitting on top of so many opportunities to do exactly that. If you take the amount of cell sites in South Africa, I'm not sure if we're at 30,000, over 30,000. If you just have 10 kilowatts that you can feed back to the grid through energy optimization for 30,000 cell sites, that's easily 300 megawatts that you take out of the grid. That suddenly is not necessary to be supplied. If you start then moving it towards big data centers, if you start moving that towards residential estates, all the tools are there. And it's even cost effective versus burning diesel during peak hours to manage our peaks. And it's, when you look at this, the economic impact of businesses not producing, it becomes a very small cost to pay. Regulatory difficulties is possibly the biggest hamper to this, where tariffs and regulations are preventing us from doing this. But I think we are changing rapidly. There's parts of the country, pockets of excellence, where the politicians and people running municipalities have seen that this is necessary. It's no longer something that is just a luxury, or let's see if we can make some money out of people. This is a necessity now, and it can be done. It's completely possible in a short period of time.
Thanks, Etienne. Seri, maybe from your point, I do understand that many of the North European countries are not as dependent on electricity or coal-generated electricity as we are. Maybe you have a perspective on that?
Yeah, but the interesting thing is actually that I think for many, many years in the northern countries, we've always been priding ourselves that we do have access to a lot of energy. At the same time, we also see, and that is thanks to energy, to water, wind, etc. But now we also see a massive growth in our industries. For example, Northvolt, which is actually, we can call it our famous little sister to Polarium. We happen to have the same owners in the back. They are establishing massive battery cell manufacturing facilities in Sweden. These consume enormous amounts of power. So actually, for the first time, I would say we have the same. It's absolutely not as severe as it is here, but there is a big discussion now, even in Sweden, where we talk about a potential massive shortage in industry. And then, of course, just like to build on what you were saying, Etienne, having energy optimization would be definitely one of the solutions. So you make sure that you don't overload the net, that you really make sure that you as a customer, you can choose when you want to buy and when you want to sell it back to balance the net. So yeah, the trend is going in the same direction.
Thank you, Sarah. And maybe can I have some conclusive comments from you?
Yeah, I mean, if I just reflect on, the manufacturing plant that Polarium set up, if you had told most South Africans that in 9 months, a Swedish company would be able to come into the country, set up the licenses, and get a factory running, most people would say, oh no, it's so difficult to do business, there's so much red tape. So I think the message is that anything's possible, but I think changing our country to more renewable energy has a lot of factors that need to play together. Similar to what we did, in our relationship. It requires vision, it requires leadership, it requires the regulatory frameworks and support. It requires a just transition, reviewing the impact on employment. The technology is there, and it requires solid business plans and relentless implementation. And I think if you have all those things in place, it's absolutely possible.
Thank you. Guys, I want to thank my panel, and in particular Anne. We're very appreciative. Anne is a customer of ours for agreeing to come and share some perspectives with us. Thank you very much. And I think we'll go over to the conclusive remarks now. So if I can call Wally to the stage, and thank you once again, guy. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much.